It began like any ordinary night. February 24th, 1978. 5 friends: Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Ted Wire, and Jack Hoot piled into a turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego to drive from Yuba City, California, to Chico, about 50 miles away, to watch a college basketball game. The men, aged between 24 and 32, were excited. They were all huge basketball fans and had a game of their own scheduled the next day in a local Special Olympics tournament. They called themselves the Gateway Gators. Each of them lived with some form of mild intellectual or psychiatric disability, but they were functional, responsible, and deeply loved by their families. That night, they watched the game, bought snacks, laughed, enjoyed themselves. Nothing was off. Nothing strange. And then they vanished. By all logic, the group should have returned home that night. But they didn't. Their families grew concerned when they never came back. Phone calls were made. Police got involved. And the next day, their car was found. Not anywhere near the route they should have taken, but 70 miles away, up a rough dirt mountain road in the Plumas National Forest. It made no sense. They weren't dressed for snow. They weren't outdoorsmen. They had no reason to be there. The car was in perfect condition, parked neatly. It had gas in the tank. The road was rough but passable. Any of them could have driven. It backed down, but they didn't. They had just walked away from it, into the freezing woods. That discovery set off one of the strangest and most haunting missing persons investigations in California history. For months, the forest was combed. Snow made searching difficult. It was as if the 5 men had stepped off the road and into a black hole. And then, in June, nearly 4 months later, the thawing snow revealed horror. A small Forest Service trailer, 20 miles from where the car had been abandoned, was found. Inside was the body of Ted Wire, lying on a bed, wrapped tightly in 8 sheets, tucked in like a child. His feet were severely frostbitten. His beard had grown 4 inches, suggesting he had lived for nearly 8 to 13 weeks. And he had starved to death. Next to the bed was a locker full of food, canned goods, sealed rations, completely untouched. A propane tank stood nearby, full, unused. Whoever had been there could have survived, but didn't. Even worse, his body showed signs of slow suffering. Extreme weight loss, gangrene, signs of prolonged exposure. It wasn't a sudden death. It was slow, quiet, and strange. Soon after, the remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found. Their bodies had been torn apart by animals, lying about 11 miles from the car. Jack Hoot's bones were discovered a little farther, down a steep canyon, scattered. But Gary Mathias, the one with a diagnosed schizophrenia condition, who was known to sometimes become disoriented if off his medication, was never found. Only his sneakers were left behind in the trailer. No one knows if he died somewhere in the woods or kept walking, or something else. Here's where the mystery deepens. There was no logical reason for these men to be in that area at all. The road was rough, snow-covered, and far out of the way from their original route. They had no connections up there, no plans. And they had a game the next morning they were excited to play. They had uniforms laid out. They'd talked about it all week. They wouldn't just miss it on purpose. But if that's not strange enough, get this. The trailer where Ted Weiher died was locked from the outside. Someone had been there and secured it, but why not light the propane heater? Why not open the locker? Why did no one eat? Why wrap Ted in sheets like a ritual? Why did he slowly starve next to food? Some theories emerged. A woman named Josephine told police that on the night of the disappearance, she and her husband saw what they thought were headlights coming from the forest. Later, a man and a baby came into her store. She claimed to have seen a group of men and described them as looking confused, silent, dazed. But the report was vague, and no solid leads ever came from it. Others speculated that they were trying to help someone, that maybe they picked up a stranger in distress, and he led them up the mountain, or that something scared them. Some even think Gary Mathias may have had a breakdown and led the others into the wilderness, though his family insists he was stable and managing his medication. No signs of a struggle were ever found. No blood, no violence, just a chain of quietly horrifying decisions. One theory stands out, that the group accidentally took a wrong turn after the game and got lost. Maybe the car got stuck temporarily, and they thought walking up the road would get them help. But that doesn't explain why they kept walking for over 20 miles, or why they broke into a trailer and didn't use any of the survival tools inside, or why they split up, heading in opposite directions through the snow. These were not foolish men. They were careful. They were close friends who relied on one another. They wouldn't just walk into the woods and die without trying everything to survive. And yet, they did. And no one knows why the mystery of the Yuba County Five remains one of the most bizarre cold cases in American history. Even seasoned investigators admit it doesn't make sense. The car was drivable. The trailer had supplies. The men had no reason to be there. And still, one of them lived for almost 2 months in the cold and never touched the food that might have saved him. Gary Mathias, if alive, would be in his 70s now, but he's still officially listed as a missing person. No trace of him has ever been found. No sightings, no bones, no answers. So what really happened that night in the snowy forests of Plumas County? Was it panic? A wrong turn? A stranger they shouldn't have trusted? Or did they see something we'll never understand, that led them silently into the woods, where 5 men were lost and only 4 were found?